So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's 9 o'clock, so we'll get started on time. I know there are more people due to join. Just makes me think back to when we first started doing these virtual events. Everyone used to get on about 15 minutes before the start. Now it tends to be about 15 seconds before the start or 15 seconds afterwards. So we will welcome the latecomers as they arrive. So my name is David Murphy. I'm going to be your host for today's event. And we're going to be looking today at how to ensure your business is customer obsessed in partnership with Mapp. So the first thing I want to say is thank you for giving us your time today. We're due to be online for around about 45 minutes to an hour. And excuse me, the first thing I need to do is just run through a couple of housekeeping points. So the first is sorry, I think somebody was just chatting to whoever they're in the room with there. The first is to ask you to rename yourself in the style of first name, company name. As you can see the instructions on the screen now, I think most of you have done that or maybe had it done for you already, so I won't dwell on that. And a little later, we'll be putting a link to a feedback form in the chat. In fact, that's probably going to go in any second now. If you could at some point before the end of the event, click on that. It will take you to an online feedback form and just let us know what you thought of today's event. We would very much appreciate it. If you've got any issues today, if you're having issues with seeing the slides or hearing our speaker Josh, then please message me in the chat and we'll try and work out where the problem is and sort that out for you. So that's more or less the housekeeping out of the way. Actually, in a couple of minutes, so a few seconds, I'm going to hand you over to Josh Beale. Josh is a Principal Account Director Global Retail and CPG at Mapp, and he's going to take you through this presentation looking at the idea of customer obsession. Presentation is due to run for around about 30-35 minutes, and afterwards Josh and his colleague Aria will take questions. If a question occurs to you while Josh is speaking, then please feel free to put it in the chat, and if it's something that requires a fairly straightforward answer, they'll answer that in the chat, and if it needs a more detailed answer, then we'll get to that during the Q&A afterwards. And I think that's probably all I need to say by way of introduction. So let me now hand you over to Josh to give the presentation. Josh, welcome.
Thanks, David. Let me just share my screen first, you guys, so you can see this one.
I will let you know when we can.
Cool.
Here it is.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Right, well, welcome everyone. Thanks for attending today's session. Looking forward to presenting this one today. So as David mentioned, we're going to focus today on how to ensure your business is customer obsessed. So I'm Josh, just to let you know. So I'm our global kind of retail and CPG specialist over here at Mapp. So what does that mean? Well, that means that I've been looking after our customers for over 10 years here, actually, at Mapp, looking after kind of strategic developments, looking at the kind of CRM, CDP space, and really how to ensure that our communication strategy is focused really truly upon our customer and how we can get the best out of these type of programs. So today, hopefully I'm going to showcase some really kind of interesting, innovative methods for you guys that you can take away and kind of learn from. There'll be a couple of links to some external sources as well, which Aria and the team will hopefully put into the chat and then you can benefit from as well. So yeah, let's get cracking with it. So how to ensure your business is customer obsessed. So what are we going to look at today, just as a little agenda? So we're going to look at what is customer obsession. What is that term? How can we bring that to our business? What is that going to look like for my brand, for my service that we offer as a business? And we're going to look at some consumer versus marketer context. So what are we thinking as brand marketeers? And what are actually our consumers thinking? And there's a really recent DMA report we're going to reference here as well. So hopefully some latest kind of industry insights that will benefit you guys as well. And then focusing a little bit more about Mapp Cloud and how we help towards this customer obsession. Definitely some tips and tricks that you guys can take away and build into your own strategies. And then there's this kind of lasting point here around how do we truly build these kind of lasting customer relationships? And we'll round it off with some Q&A. So by all means, do put some questions into the chat. Aria, one of our solutions consultants, is monitoring that chat today, so we'll hopefully answer some in flight, and obviously we can take some at the end as well. Okay, cool. So we're going to crack on, and we're going to look at what this customer obsession definition is. So just to set the scene, some landscaping here. as we are aware, there's kind of today's digital savvy customers, they really expect a lot from brands. So they're holding us in real high esteem, and we have to try and meet their kind of constant expectations. But these expectations are always changing, and they're constantly happening and obviously very fast to change. So we have to try and meet those needs, those demands, and how can we best do that and kind of focus on the customer. First off, I'm just going to show a kind of a little video, about 50 seconds long, which is something that hopefully you guys won't have seen before, but again, just shows kind of what is possible in this day and age as well from Amazon, actually.
Here's an idea. Walk in, grab what you want, and walk out. That's right, just walk out. Amazon Fresh stores powered by Just Walk Out technology are coming to the UK. It's simple. Use the Amazon app to enter, then put away your phone and start shopping. Easy, right? From our hand-picked by Amazon products to those fresh everyday essentials, anything you pick up is automatically added to your Amazon account. Changed your mind? Just put it back. You won't be charged for it. So how does it work? We use computer vision, deep learning algorithms, and sensor fusion to create something we call Just Walk Out technology. Because once you're done, well, you just walk out. We'll add up your items, charge your preferred payment method selected on your account, and email you the receipt. No tills, no checkout queues, just a smooth, seamless experience for your in-store shop.
Cool. So I'm not on commission by Amazon, but I just thought it would really be worth setting the scene there and just showing kind of where brands are trying to get to and where they're trying to push the boundaries. And this is all around this concept of kind of winning what I would call this kind of heart and mind strategy. So as a brand, how can we get into our hearts and our minds of our customers where we kind of create that kind of recurrence, or how they keep coming back to us as a brand, or that brand recognition, or that first thought is, oh, I want to go and shop with them. Or I need this, I need to go there. And it's all around that kind of concept. And to do this, we always say that from a Mapp perspective, this kind of idea around customer obsession. So what is that true definition? What we would say here is this kind of this hyper focus on creating a better customer experience from the customer's perspective. So this is what truly the definition around customer obsession is. And there are a number of ways that we can go and do this, and we'll come on to those later in the presentation. But yeah, if we can remember, this is the kind of core concept. So hyper focus on creating the best customer experience from that customer's perspective. Okay. And then by doing this, what are we looking to do? Well, brands are trying to strive for that customer obsession, and they need to create these kind of fans and loyalists who become the bedrock for your brand. And this is kind of really apt with Euro 2020 on at the moment, with a stadium that hopefully full of fans for the semi-finals and finals. And you can imagine, obviously, if we can get that base and people really supporting your brand, they can be the champions that come through and kind of drive that revenue bottom line from your products and services. Okay, so just a little bit of landscape context, as I mentioned earlier. We're moving on to this kind of idea around customer expectations. So this is a little chart from the DMA Marketer Email Report that came out in June 2021. It's been out about 3 weeks, so I'm not sure if you guys would have seen that, but we can obviously follow up and send you the full report as well. But this is actually looking at customer preference, which are the ones in the red bars here on the slide. Hopefully you can see that. And then in the yellow bar, this is the marketer channel preference. So this is just stating what communication methods do your organization use when contacting customers. And it's quite interesting to see the differential from the customer's perspective and what us as brand marketeers think is the best channel to utilize. So yeah, it's quite an interesting split here. It's showing that actually customers really favor kind of emails as a channel to receive comms on 92%, whereas marketers would probably use that 72% of the time. And then it looks across all the different channel spectrums from phone calls. We may be overusing that type of activity, maybe underutilizing SMS text as a channel. But what is really interesting when you break this down a little bit further from the latest insight is actually where we should use each channel at each different stage of the customer life cycle. So on the right hand side, you might not be able to see it on the screen, so I'll just call it out, but we've got the red bar being pre-purchase. We've got the yellow bar being post-purchase. We've got the purple or lilac bar being kind of customer service, and the dark blue bar being additional benefits. So when we're sending these types of communications as part of these different stages of the journey, the channels are stacked up, and it's also split into consumers on the left-hand side, marketers' thoughts on the right-hand side. So again, as brand marketers who are on this webinar today, sure you guys can take a little look at this and see what types of roles are your different types of messaging happening, and where are you communicating through your channels and your proliferation of these channels, and see, are you in line with consumers' kind of expectations here? And maybe there's a channel that is in this section which you're not really kind of utilizing. And one of the ones that stands out for me, again, is in that SMS tech space. Again, as part of that post-purchase customer service journey, this is like an always-on kind of mechanism, and are we really utilizing that as brands? So sometimes as part of that transactional process, the service messaging, that SMS can be a really good touch point to utilize and kind of drive that action that you might require, whether you're a business that's driving people to do click and collect in store, or again, making sure that they're aware of that customer service journey, and not just relying on these from our kind of third-party aggregators like a DPD or a Hermes to fulfill this, but actually what are the brands saying, and kind of owning that customer at these stages as well. Cool. So, okay, cool. So we just finished off this slide here, which is regarding consumer versus marketer context, and then looking at the channel. So pre-purchase, post-purchase, customer service, additional benefits, and then seeing what stage of the life cycle is best for customers and what channel they should really look to support on. So yeah, take a little look at this offline. I'm sure one of my colleagues will put the kind of the full report in the chat as well. And then the final one from the DMA report, which I thought was really interesting, just because obviously as a kind of a CDP or a customer data platform provider here over at Mapp, one of the core channels for marketing, and I'm sure will be one of yours, is that kind of email marketing as being one of the bedrocks of our kind of core channels. What it's showcasing here is actually from a specific email perspective, what are the kind of key things that are like challenges at the moment to successfully like automating or doing these type of marketing programs. And some of the key things and the concepts that are maybe holding some brands back are around data, budget and resource, technology, and strategy as well. So we would hope here at Mapp that these are things that kind of the CDP or technology provider would be able to kind of support upon, especially having the data to be able to unify all the data points around the customer, understanding the concept of kind of best channel, what should we go out to market upon, and then hopefully having the strategic insights and the consultants and the kind of account managers and customer success teams to be able to bring that strategy about when you should send, what channel is right to send upon, the types of messaging campaigns that you can execute as well. So yeah, just a few things just to highlight, and again, these might resonate with your kind of day-to-day activities at the moment, and things that you're taking back to your business and maybe doing your strategies upon as well. Cool. So just moving a little bit further on, so moving away from the DMA report now, we're going to look at the another report that came out in kind of around March time over here at Mapp. I think it's March, April time. So we commissioned a Forrester report, and just basically to save you having to go through all of it, even though there's a link to the full document. One of the key things that we spotted and Forrester spotted when analysing senior business marketers was that the number one challenge in providing the best experience for customers is lacking of customer insights. So this is quite an interesting point here, and it's where we see a bit of a differential in the market now, which is looking at an insight-led approach to kind of our marketing strategies, and being able to get that feedback and getting those customer insights back is really important to be able to make true kind of actionable decisions upon them. And this is one of the key things that are holding marketers back. So again, this is where either investments need to be made into kind of insight-led activity, or just being able to work with your tools that you have available to try and surface those insights to be able to make true actionable decisions as well. So there's a link on this slide, but I'm sure we'll put a link in the chat as well to that Forrester report. It's well worth a little look. So now I'm going to move on to a few different studies and a few different sectors as well. So this one's following just some luxury brand activity. David and the team asked me just to put some activity around a few different sectors. And this one's looking at luxury brands and just seeing where the development and new trends are going into. So this is looking at the top 10 brand accounts, actually by number of followers on TikTok. So this is looking at some of the new channel proliferation that we have with TikTok and social. And you can see here Gucci, Dior, Louis Vuitton starting to use into their kind of TikTok methods here as well, and how they're increasing their headcount, but also increasing their spend in certain areas. And this is looking at different kind of, let's say, newer channels. Obviously, TikTok has been around for probably 18 months now. But again, just seeing how the investment strategies are changing, how they're reaching new audiences, and how they're playing in different spaces. So I thought that was quite interesting to see, and that's from a latest Vogue report as well. So yeah, just moving a little bit more on to give you some kind of concrete information around what does an obsession or customer obsession strategy look like. So here are my kind of top tips in this area. So what we should look at from a first standpoint is trying to create a customer advisory board that isn't afraid to challenge you as a brand. So this could be looking and finding your kind of key loyalist users, who are my repeat purchasers, who have come back to me a few times. Maybe we can communicate out with these and proactively outreach to them, asking maybe why they shop with your brand, why they do this over your competition, how they found you in the first place, all of these different methods. And then also asking them around kind of, oh yes, you're a loyal person who keeps going back and buying from us, but how could we be better in our experience? And try and get those people who aren't just the yes sayers and saying, oh yes, you're doing everything perfect. Let's get those customers on board who have the true insight and actually can challenge your approach or your experience. Because actually what we find is that customers will tell us quicker than industry studies or UX experience or cameras on the site where we should click. Let's actually ask our customers what we should be doing as a brand. And this is a concept of a kind of customer advisory board. So make sure you're getting that meaningful feedback. But customer obsession is not just from the outside, it's not just from brands. Also identify and empower your own customer obsessed employees. So really understand, again, they live and breathe your brand. So really champion their thoughts and improvements and try and bring that into your day-to-day strategy. And kind of what we would say at Mapp, one of the most important ones is kind of tying customer metrics to the organizational performance. So on a Monday morning, let's say you have your typical trade meeting, and you're looking at your revenue stats over the last 7 days and looking at trading performance within categories. Maybe we might be overlooking some of these kind of key customer metrics. What are our kind of number of complaint rates? What are our kind of key things into our call centers? What's our call center volumes? These are our customers trying to reach out to us with maybe issues or solutions or problems that they may be having. So yeah, let's see if we are really truly looking at these customer-centric metrics and how we can bring that in as part of our kind of reviews to make sure we are really looking at that customer goal. Because again, a lot of focus sometimes goes on acquisition, but those customers who typically, let's say your loyalists, I've seen for certain brands can make up 80% of the revenue of businesses. So from only like 20% of their audience. So 20% of the audience is generating typically up to 80% of the revenue for that brand. So it's really important to listen to these customers and tie customer metrics back into your organizational performance alongside the other key KPIs like revenues, clicks, sessions, channel performance, etc., but really understanding that sentiment feedback. And that could be with tools like, I don't know, Spreadfast or social sentiment, really monitoring the brand values, your social sayings, but also things like customer complaint rates, customer tickets, all of these type of things coming back into your business as well. Cool. So we're just going to move a little bit now into this kind of idea about how do we build these lasting customer relationships. So what we're starting off with, that customers are really passionate about their favorite brands. So again, tying into that advisory board, use their experiences, gain their feedback from your community. Use things like your Trustpilot, your FIFO scores, your review scores. Look at your Google reviews online, for instance, maybe if you're a services-led business. And really look at these and take heed and notice of these things and respond and reply. So yeah, definitely something that we can be doing as a brand. If this is obviously positive sentiment, then start leveraging this in your marketing. Create that kind of accessibility to your brand from an entry purchase point. And I say that because some marketers, if you've done like a welcome sequence, let's say, into your brand and they haven't made a purchase after X number of days, let's say 14 days, we might be thinking, oh, what's that strategy to get those users in? Well, actually what we should do is look at the data, look at the insights, see where our first customers or our previous first purchase customers are coming into our brand from. Have they gone through a certain route on the website? Have they been buying certain products that come in as their first typical purchase? Maybe those might be the lower AOV products, for instance, on your website. That might be an entry purchase. And maybe if we promoted those type of entry purchases where our first time customers are buying, we might be able to actually kind of do more of that and bring them into a brand, give them a really positive experience where they come back and maybe buy from a higher purchase point. It doesn't just have to be discount led. It can also just be looking at the insights and the data, identifying your first kind of customers or your first-time customers, and seeing where those first-time customers then became hyper loyal, and where did they start from? What was their journey? Can we replicate that for others as well? And yeah, receive those insights based upon your user interactions. So obviously at every single stage of an online journey, especially, we're receiving different data and different touch points. So being able to utilize that, bring that into an analytics platform, I don't know, maybe even get that into a Tableau or a business tool. We would obviously advocate our Mapp intelligence tool for this. But yeah, this kind of insight-led approach will allow you to make strategic actions, tailor the right marketing, maybe adjust your budgetary levels for different channels, etc., as well. And what do we do here? Whilst we're building lasting customer relationships, well, we try and get more insight. So what I'm seeing from a kind of, especially like a traditional CRM perspective, is when we know the customer best, we're doing these type of things. We're tying up the e-commerce transactions, we're tying up the on-site behavior. So this is all the click tracking and all the real-time actions that they're doing on the activity, the product feedback. So in terms of what products are they clicking on, what products are they purchasing? And even if we've got the capability to bring in things like store data through digital receipting, for instance, or you have a loyalty card, if we can tie all of that information to the same customer, whether that be their email, whether that be their data management platform cookie, whatever it may be, we can tie everything to that single customer and then start really learning about their experience and also kind of tailoring their marketing accordingly. And then also brands can then focus on the correct audience marketing. Once you've got all of this activity in kind of one central place, then you can actually do that kind of individual customer life cycles, dynamic banners, targeting, segmented activity, certain marketing life cycles. All of this can come from the right place once you really understand where that customer is in the journey with yourselves. Have they just made a purchase? Therefore, should we be sending that typical marketing email that would have just gone out to our BAU audience on a Friday? Maybe that's not the right thing to do. Maybe we need to tailor that experience. Maybe we need to drop them out and suppress them from some comms. Maybe we need to switch off their ad spend, for instance, on PPC because they already know our brand and we're just wasting money and efficiency. These are types of things that we can do, and we can pull those levers once we truly know the customer as well. Cool. So what else can we do? Once we've got this kind of more insights, well, we can make it more personal. So brands that win and create that kind of customer obsession create really personalized experiences. And they can do that whether that be on the website. So maybe like, I don't know, product recommendations, carousels, content strategy, which are kind of tailored to my approach, the right products, right quantity, super targeted marketing. And then you've got all these other different things that we can do around tailored campaigns, replenishment journeys. And replenishment is a really interesting topic, especially if you're a D2C retailer on here, or someone just going into that kind of traditional just e-commerce only space. These kind of replenishment angles are really important, and kind of building out that on the different strategies. And I was speaking to some leading FMCG in the last week, actually, over in Japan, and we were looking at different replenishment journeys across their different portfolio of products. And these were ranging from different life cycles. So a user can have a mixed cart, for instance, of different products, but they can be on totally different replenishment journeys. So it's important to understand where the user is in that journey with those particular brands that they purchased, and being able to identify different replenishment tactics, not so you over communicate, but just so you're on the right track of the user when they're coming up for activity. So replenishment life cycles are kind of the greatest way to kind of build loyalty and advocacy, because you're following that journey. You know when they're typically running out of certain products, if it's a kind of a refilled product, and then you can obviously bring that into your marketing comms, and that really helps your kind of continuation of purchase, and also that experience where the customer feels like, oh, you know them as a brand, you know exactly my cadence, you know how I'm shopping, therefore you can adjust your habits accordingly and the marketing accordingly as well. Cool. The next one here is just around more engagement. So customers want to understand how and why products are being made. So this idea around kind of what is your brand purpose, surfacing your brand purpose to the user. Is it a kind of, I've just given Brewdog as an example, they're really pushing on their carbon neutral stance. There's a few other things in the press at the moment with Brewdog, but I won't touch on those. But again, this one again is an angle that they've come on really strong on in terms of the planting of the trees, carbon neutral strands, and it's been one of their like go-to-market strategies. But as a brand marketeer on here, what is your brand purpose? How are your products made? Are they ethically made? Are they sustainable products? Can we push this through to the customer? Because that will give you a point of difference from maybe your competition. And that might be a reason why your users are prepared to pay a little bit more for your products, because they're supporting those type of methods in terms of production. So again, how and why your product's being made? What is your brand purpose? Are you a heritage brand? Is it something that has been long-standing? Again, if we can communicate to the customer, this creates those kind of emotional ties to your brand. And it's all about doing that, because again, when they run out of that product, when they need something from you, they go, okay, I remember them, and they had a positive experience with them, I'm going to go back as well. Creates that kind of idea around customer obsession as well. So those were just a few of the practical actions. And from Mapp Cloud, just wanted to showcase a little bit about us, because sometimes I get told off for not actually saying what we do. So this is the one slide on Mapp Cloud itself. So just as a platform and a customer data platform, we kind of bring all of this data and insights together. So we have our Engage tool, which is our typical communication strategy, from email, SMS, mobile push, landing pages, these different types of channel execution, just integrate into direct mail as well. And then we're using all of these insights to power the campaigns, and our Mapp Acquire tool takes all of that on-site customer behavior. And it's best illustrated in a few of these kind of slides. And my colleague Arya, actually, he's on the chat actually, and yeah, he probably won't mind that I've used all his details here. But yeah, just from our perspective, as I said earlier, it's about tying that customer record into one place. So we call this our unified profile, but the concept still holds across your business. And what we're trying to do here is make sure we know Arya in all his different forms: his email address, mobile number, his mobile app alias, if you've got an app and you are communicating on that channel, and also what this key concept of this DMP cookie ID. So this is something which is like the website behavior for Arya, and we can pipe those key events and key stage gates, whether he's looked at a product page, a product view, all of these different types of things that get stored against his customer record, and we can mark it accordingly as well. And then using some of these themes from an insight-led approach, you can kind of come up with these different types of models. So this one is a typical one that you'll hear about and I'm sure be aware of, this kind of RFM, recency, frequency, monetary. Understanding where customers are in different life cycles is really important to be able to market to them accordingly. And this is just showing a funnel where loyal customers are moving down, moving hopefully up into that top left quadrant. And for anyone going down into the inactive, customers at risk and valuable churning, well, then we might want to do something about that. Or we might want to serve them an on-site pop-up next time they come on with a discount code to try and bring those users back. We might want to send them a targeted marketing campaign, whether it be an email, SMS, mobile push. These are different elements, which again, that we can use these different approaches. But again, it's just, again, identifying where the customer is in this journey. So ask yourself as a brand, can we do this yet? And if we're not quite there, maybe there's some different things where we can bucket our audience up accordingly to try and change these different marketing tags. So simply, you could be looking for people who purchased over 6 months ago who haven't been on site in X amount of time. Whatever that may be, that might be a reason that we want to do we haven't seen you in a while win back type campaign. And you can bring that one through as well. We have these ideas, once we've got these kind of segments, we've got these ideas of these kind of intelligent segments. So again, utilizing that data and being able to use that in your marketing campaign and belonging to one of these audience segments allows us to automate something out as well. It's best shown just in a kind of graph there. And this is where the true power comes in once you can unify the data. What I'm showing here is 5 different things. We're bringing in the e-commerce data, we're bringing in the web data through the Acquire Pixel, we're bringing in the last click, so last click from email, we're bringing in the CI intelligence segments, and we're bringing in this kind of purchase frequency. And the power of bringing all of these types of things in together is we really truly know where the customer is in that life cycle. We know what they've purchased before, we know what they've just been browsing, and we're finding the right audiences to be able to create a tailored campaign for a typical retailer or CPG or finance, whatever it may be as well. So yeah, just bringing all of that data in one place. Some things to have a little look at, whether that be in your Google Analytics tool or, for instance, in our tool, it would be something like Mapp Intelligence, but looking at the funnel steps. So funnel steps, this looks at where users are on site, kind of seeing how many people are going through that funnel, looking down into the product views, and then the add to basket, and then finally the conversion rates. This is quite a nice depiction where it's showcasing how your users obviously flowing through on a weekly basis or comparison week on week, month on month. And also, quite importantly, looking at different browser performance. And one thing that highlights here to me, this kind of Google Chrome browser down at the bottom right hand side, you can see the drop off from the stage above. Well, this one says to me that there could be potentially a web issue on that browser type that we should investigate from what's happening from the product views and why there's such a drop off on conversion performance on Google Chrome, for instance, in this dummy set of data. But this is the type of granularity that we need to know as marketers and have at our fingertips to be able to pull the right levers and maybe get something resolved, because that could have a significant improvement on conversions, and maybe there's something that can't convert or is not compatible on that browser that is stopping us from making that final purchase when we've done all the hard work of getting them to that final stage and making that ready to make the purchase, and something maybe technical is letting us down just on that individual browser type. So it's, again, having this data at your fingertips will allow you to go and action pull those levers accordingly. And then also from a marketer's perspective, really understanding the role of channel and what role of that channel has in individual different journeys. So we have something in our tool set which allows us to look at the different channels. So I can show you them down here, from SEO, cost per click, which would be like PPC, direct, paid social, email. And then we have different colorations, like first touch point converting, in between touch point, which is this green, and converting touch point, which is this blue. And I say this because once you add some filters to this, and let's say you have different categories on the website, what we can say is, okay, for these certain product sets, what is the role of my paid social? What is the role of my Instagram accounts? Because that could be generating lots of inspiration, for instance, on higher tariff items. Let's say one of our retailers, like a Homebase, for instance, they would be looking at all of these different types of channels and understanding, okay, Instagram plays a longer term role on their kitchen journey for driving inspiration. And then maybe email is a way of supporting that, but it's not a converting touch point. And therefore they're going to come through and go back through that PPC or come direct. But it's really understanding these different tailored journeys, not just across your website as a whole, but looking at it down to kind of category level, and if you can go further than that, product level as well, and see how your users are navigating and utilizing those different touch points, because that might change how you approach the different strategies on different channels. Like, do you upweight your PPC in certain occasions? Should you downweight? These are types of questions that we would be asking, and again, really trying to tailor in on that customer journey and seeing what's best for different users. So again, I can just flow through this one. As part of there, you've got the different campaign trees, again, standard kind of things, but then also quite importantly, the attribution, looking at kind of whole tail attribution from first click, last click, revenue, all, and just some sample data in here, just showcasing how we can kind of really understand where they are in the customer journey. And final couple of slides, I'm probably gonna have about 3 minutes more, and then we can move into some Q&A. But this is quite an interesting idea, especially around that customer obsession and that repeat purchase and loyalty. Really understanding how many of my users have come in, maybe this is a certain channel or a certain category. So imagine there's another column here on the left-hand side. We've got all your categories of the website. This could be, if you're a multi-channel retailer or a clothing retailer, this could be, I don't know, women's dresses, men's trousers, shoes, etc. These are people who come in on those pages, and then it shows the kind of proportion of first order, second order, third order. Where are they coming through and after time? So again, can we understand where users are coming in on? When's their second order coming, and what percentage and density are happening after certain periods in time? And maybe how can we move that forward in the mix as well? And if there's a certain journey that's standing out, that people are coming through and then having more prolific, like kind of, I don't know, ways of working or coming back through these funnel really quickly, then maybe that's a route that we should be pushing our users down. Or maybe when we're looking at things on site like cross sells and product upsells, we should be using other categories from those areas where we know they have earlier converted in time spans to bring those into our product mix as well. There's loads of different strategies you can look at from here. Similar concept here is around like lifetime value, understanding after how much time these users are creating different value points for us, and actually where they originally came in from, and then what is their value over time. And again, it's just this insights and bringing this to the fore, just to be able to say, okay, we do truly understand our customer set. We understand where they're coming in from, the sources that they're here from. And also it shows that over different time periods, different channels have different effectivenesses as well. So we can see in this example here that a rise in direct happens over time. So how users come back to the website, which makes sense because they know you as a brand. but also the growth of email, and that obviously comes up because over time, if they sign up to your brand on a purchase or the subscription, obviously they're now part of your marketing lists, and you can see that's gone from like 2% first channel share to 9% over the 9th visit. So that's a channel that they keep coming back on. And then you can see also like a decline in kind of search, because again, they know exactly who you are. They're not using Google so much. They might be starting to come direct. It might be already in their favorites in their browser as well. But what is actually a little bit worrying here is that increase in CPC. So if I was looking at this from a brand strategy, I'd be like saying, okay, well, why is my cost per click going up on the 9th time? Like we're actually, for their 9th visit, we're still targeting them with CPC ads and actually paying for them to come back. So what we should be looking at here from a strategic perspective is maybe cutting back our CPC spend, because that user does truly know them, and they're probably using the CPC as just a quick way onto the website. And that might be not required because they could have come through on the brand term, for instance, as well. So again, just a final slide from me on this. It's just kind of this approach where we're coming at it from a Mapp standpoint around customer session, is this kind of insight-led approach. So just try and get the data at your fingertips to be able to make those business decisions. And then obviously you can bring that into your holistic strategy as well. So just a final slide, just a few people that we obviously kind of do this type of stuff with. PepsiCo across Europe, Diageo globally as well, from a CPG side, and then you see some retailer names on here as well. So if you guys got any questions in terms of how to bring that into your approach, it's quite a personal subject, kind of customer session. So we would normally look at this from a individual brand perspective, but hopefully there's some kind of key themes here today that you can kind of pull out from this presentation and maybe take this into your day-to-day strategy as well. So I'll throw it back to David and the Q&A, I guess.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed, Josh. Just while people gather their thoughts after that very detailed presentation, one thing you talked about that interested me, replenishment life cycles. Is Amazon Dash still a thing? Did that ever take off?
Yeah, not to my knowledge. I think it was, I definitely heard it, the concept, but it's not been something that's proliferated right out. But I do know that they're looking at their kind of 2-hour kind of Amazon Fresh and Go kind of delivery times at the moment, tie up with Morrison. So this has just been coming out, and they were pushing that on, actually DM to me in the last week or so about trying to bring there. Obviously with these kind of in-store activities. I think that Amazon example was really just to showcase kind of, obviously it's their kind of art of the possible. Not saying this is going to be the future for everything, but again, it's just interesting to see the ways that data can be tied up. So yes, you had to log into the app, but once you were there, everything else was kind of done with cameras and everything.
Yeah. No, very clever. If anyone's not familiar with Amazon Dash, I think I've got the name right. This was a concept they came up with 2 or 3 years ago, and you had a little button for only for a handful of items, things like detergent for your washing machine. And you put this button next to the washing machine, and when you ran out, you just hit it, and it would automatically order you a new one, which sounded like a great concept. But I just wondered whether it got anywhere. And your idea of knowing when people needed to top up with certain things, and the fact that I need to do it more often than you need to do it, and the next person is really interesting. And I guess brands that are sitting on that sort of data, if they can tap into that, as you say, it's a very powerful tool. Mm. But anyway, enough of me whittering on about Amazon Dash. Does anyone have any questions for Josh off the back of the presentation? If so, be brave, speak out. Here's one from Kate on the chat. What about non-digital touch points? How can we really understand the full shopper journey, incorporating physical store interactions? Has any retailer or brand found a way around the barrier of knowing your shoppers in store?
It's a great question. I don't think truly no one has done it 100% of every single purchase, because it's all down to the customer identification piece. There is some great technology out there which is linking stuff through your card at the moment. So you can actually, on your debit cards, you can opt into some schemes, and that can do the proliferation to kind of do that tie up. So that piece is kind of the new innovation on from a digital receipt. I still think digital receipts has some legs, but there are some technologies that, especially with MasterCard at the moment, I'll come and find the actual company who are doing that activity, but that's probably going to be in the long term where you opt in with your bank, and then you get all of your receipt data in your kind of mobile apps and handsets. I think in the next couple of years that will be quite strong, and that will give that kind of tie-up piece. Obviously, I think that it's old school, but the people who do it best are the Boots and the Nectar. They have the most data of anyone out there, and Tesco in those schemes, just because, again, they get you to use that card. Tesco, obviously, with their pricing or differential pricing that they've done for your card readers, like, I don't want to be carrying normally a Tesco club card around in my wallet, but unfortunately I am, because the pricing is so differential that you just don't want to pay an extra £1 for that cabbage or whatever you're buying. So obviously from the back of that, they're getting all of that data insights, they're tying it to the customer, and they are sitting on a big wealth of data. And then when they look at cross-channel from offline to online, they're really doing a nice tie-up piece there as well. So, or can do. I'm not saying that they're utilising all of it already, but they're in a good place to do so. So I think, yeah, if you can loyalty, either mobile app, digital receipts, or some form of payment provider tie-up is probably your best route. And there is some interesting stuff coming out the Nordics, because the Nordics are a little bit ahead in that payment provider mechanism. So
I think you just hit it as well. It might get a bit spooky if all of a sudden everything is tracked without you giving your consent. And I think Alison from HRA Pharma, I'm not sure if you can all read it or if it's just a message to me, she asked how do increasing GDPR affect campaigns, and how does that all flow into it? So I'll hand it back over to you.
Thanks, Kate. You're doing a good job. You should be the new David.
Yeah, I'm off. See you later. Bye.
No, David, please stay. It's always really hard to read chat and everything else. But yes, that was the question that Alison had for us all. But I think it just came to me because I had...
No, I'm really joking. It's great. So yeah, in terms of GDPR, obviously it is at the customer's beck and call. It's their decision whether they want to give this information across. And normally they would truly do it if it enhances their customer experience. But I always talk about this kind of value exchange. What is the value exchange for giving that data? There's probably another webinar I recently did, which is around kind of zero-party data, first-party data exchange as well. These kind of gamification experiences, Kate, I'm sure at Lego you are all across these type of ways to engage your audience with mini games and different ways of consulting with your audience. And I think from a GDPR perspective, yeah, that's that value exchange. But there's also a kind of telling the brand, or the brand needs to tell the customer, what are you going to utilize their data for, and the reasons for collecting those data points. So be very explicit, not just say you're signing up to newsletter and offers. Well, if you are signing up to newsletter and offers, just sell them about newsletters and offers. But if you are going to be doing much more activity, then actually tell the user what they are signing up to. Because if they are understanding of like the cadence, like you're going to see a couple of emails a week, they're going to be about these different offers and promotions, but you're also going to see our latest product releases, our new activities, our brand tie-ups, and some Then people are, once they receive those type of comms, won't just go unsubscribe or delete my data in requests with GDPR. So we obviously have to give the users the control, whether that be in the acceptance of the cookie policies, everything which we're doing, but also making sure, yeah, you've got the user's consent and ability for the user to choose their touch points with your brand in accordance, really. So yeah, I would say that's probably the main piece. But yeah, again, all CDP type tools will have that compliance factor around them. But yeah, I would say the key thing really is the first touch point when they sign up, really giving them that true knowledge about what they're signing up to and why, and the benefits for doing so. And if you can do that as part of a value exchange mechanism, even better, because you get more time with the brands, they feel more empowered and also have fun with your brand. And then obviously that resonates and kind of allows you to come back as well. So yeah, great question.
Josh, just back on Kate's original question. I will come to Alison's. Alison's put a question in the chat. Let's do that. We operate in a sensitive health area, contraception. Any advice on managing customers in such sensitive areas?
Yeah, it's a good point. We actually have a similar client in terms of independent pharmacy, actually, I can probably relate to, who just come on board with Mapp from about January this year. And they have a very similar approach. There's certain things that they can market alongside their products. So what we tend to do is we look at a really tight patternation, especially around product recommendations and activities whereby if these products have been purchased previously, they can only showcase one or two different types of things which are in accordance with those products and have all been verified. And if not, then we actually drop those kind of recommendation slots out and bring in like content instead. So instead of it being product focused, it's content led and article led, which is in relation to the activity that they've been doing. Obviously with sensitive topics, yeah, we've all heard about the Target examples where the parents knew about the pregnancy before they've been told. Like, we don't want to be kind of over marketing or just using things in just crazy ways, because we are, at the end of the day, we're quite powerful in terms of the data that we sit on. So we've got to do it respectfully, but yeah, it's really understanding the individual journey, and also maybe suppressing comms for certain journeys such as contraception, because it's not right to market to it in that way. And actually what we need to do is suppress that channel, or the repeat replenishment program for contraception, because we need the user to consent to doing so, and actually give the power back to the user to say, would you like to opt into a continuous reminder about this, or do you feel more comfortable about doing X and Y? But it's not a one size fits all. So I would say that's probably the right approach. But again, yeah, definitely want to look at as individual journeys for different kind of sensitive product areas for sure.
Good stuff. Aria, we haven't heard from you yet. Would you like to just share the question from Paul with everyone, and either answer it yourself or put it to Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just writing Paul out a lengthy answer to that one, but I'd rather just talk it through, because
yeah. So do you want to just read the question? Just read the question in case anyone hasn't seen it, please.
Yeah, just for everyone's reference. So Paul's asked, what sources can your system accept data from? Does it connect to CRM systems such as Salesforce, for example, to bring in data around the customer's interactions with customer services, social, etc.? And any other limitations as far as data sources are concerned? Yeah, very, very comprehensive question, Paul. Data is like the core thing within Mapp, is what I always say, because once you kind of get this data right, all the really cool stuff that we do kind of flows in really nicely. So getting the data right is the first thing that I always talk about with our clients. In terms of Salesforce, that's one of the one of the big platforms that we actually have out the box connectors for. So it's really easy for us to pull across like Salesforce data, for example. And then what that means is that we get that core data being streamed across over to our platforms. We then look to enrich it by start doing things like calculations of things like purchase probability, behavioral intents, and so on. And we do a lot of this through the AI that we have within our intelligence platform that draws most of it, or a lot of its insights rather, from the kind of web behavior that's been going on your actual sites as well. So kind of for the systems like Salesforce and so on, you guys would be giving us that. I think of it as like the core underlying data, like who is Aria, what's his name, what's his address, etc. And then we'd look to kind of enrich it from there by working out more in the moment or like behavioral based aspects from there. For the not so common platforms, Salesforce is obviously a very big one. For the not so common platforms, we're really good in the sense that we have a very open API suite that we can work with. And what it means is that I can't explain. I've yet to come across an instance where I talk to a customer and they give us like a data source and like, no, we can't ingest that at all. If it can be linked back to a customer, it's just a case of us, setting up the API calls, setting up SFTP jobs, and pumping that data across to us. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Paul.
Good. I've just lost my.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, that was great. Thanks for the answer.
Thank you. I'm just sorry. I've just covered my chat up, so I can't see if there's any more anything. Just going back to Kate's question about tying up in-store to everything else, Josh. What's wrong with getting an email address and emailing a receipt to a customer? Is it just a low opt-in rate, or?
Yeah, I think it's just the take-up rate sometimes. Say, obviously with COVID, frictionless kind of activity. I've seen it done very well, but it's typically 1 in 3 to 1 in 2 users would take up a digital receipt.
Okay.
So I always see it, like say, we work with IOS, who are formerly Wire Receipts. They're a strong partner of ours. We're doing it for Vivienne Westwood, the fashion brand, tying up the digital receipts. And it is a really good source of data. And I think it can be utilized. Obviously, if you've got a high turnover checkout, it can be quite a challenge. Let's say you're a Wilkinson's or a TK Maxx. Like, these brands just say they don't have physical time to go and take that identifier at the source. So I think it horses for courses. As always, you could even have let's say in luxury, you could have iPads, for instance, in store with a nice like designed up landing page about your shopping experience. You could have consultants with these type of things collecting customer data, much more one-to-one type of experience. For a high end, that might work much better than saying taking a digital receipt, or maybe the digital receipt is the right mechanism, because I know from a Vivienne Westwood perspective, they're tying up people who are making significant purchase in store in their Mayfair boutique, and then they're able to understand they've got their offline transactions, they've got their in-store online transactions in two different tables, and then they can just go across those two tables.
Yeah, I was
experience. So
I was going to ask that question about when it gets to a luxury item, you know, whether you're talking about a £2,000 handbag or whether you're talking about a £40,000 Mercedes, you would think it would be easier to, you know, it's less of a rushed purchase and people will be prepared to sort of identify themselves, shall we say.
Exactly. And I think it all comes like when you're buying a car. I actually went through that experience about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, you have a lot of touch points with a consultant. It takes you around the car, and then you've got to do your MOT and switch over. So like you've got a lot of options to get that customer communication up. So again, I think it is a different approach for different people. Yeah, digital receipts is one mechanism, but it just doesn't have that totality of the audience. But I think for those users who want to give that information, it's a brilliant way to get the data in, and it's quite cheap and economical on a digital receipting level. And also, like say, if we're gonna go on the digital receipting mechanism, there's two things that I really like about it with these technology providers at the moment: that any spend that you're doing on Facebook ads, any spend that you're doing on Google kind of PPC, if your users have seen an online banner or an advert and then go and identify themselves in store, you can actually track all that online revenue spend against the in-store customers. And there's some great tie-ups showcasing, actually, I think that some of the stats are around 60% of your ad revenue of people seeing ads here had actually gone back into store and spent with you again. So yes, you know all of your online ROI already, but actually there's another 60% more revenue attributed to what's coming through your in-store users, just because they've seen that ad, they've seen that Facebook ad, hadn't made the on-site purchase, but maybe gone into one of your stores. Again, if you have enough of the store footprint to do this. So I've seen some really interesting case studies there.
We've got about 5 minutes left, and we've got another good question coming in. Just before I get to that, Aria's put a note in the chat with a link there to the open marketing automation platform. So take a look at that. But Andrea from HMN Group has said, do you have any examples of great customer obsessed dashboards that could be useful for management? As in not too detailed, so like a very top line view of things, and that cover other customer metrics than typical ones like visits, active users, and conversions, etc.
Yeah, it's going to be a good plug for our tool, but like in terms of our
just answer the question.
I know it's quite hard not to, but with our tech, but like say with our Mapp intelligence tool, we have like 30 dashboard sets out of the box. So some of the ones I showed you today were around like RFM and funnel purchase, but there's some kind of more unified statistics that we have, just executive level, path to purchase, return frequency rates, and we have different dashboard sets for different markets. So we have one core set for retail, one for finance, one for publishing, and we can look at different types of metrics across them. So from our perspective, we bought a company about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, called WebTrek, who are 20 years based analytics business out of Berlin, and now we have just basically taken those learnings from what they used to do with like all of their data scientists and say, okay, we're going to sit down as a brand and find out what you want. We've just taken the best parts of all of that and built a core custom set. And then we speak to any of the brands about any additional challenges. So with customers like Creed, for instance, the fragrance brand online, we're looking at time to repeat purchase. What's the difference between 50 ml fragrance, 50 ml fragrance, 100 ml fragrance, 100 ml fragrance? What is the time here? And there's some really crazy learnings that you get when you're looking at the individuals, looking at things like not really knowing if anniversarizing of a purchase is a thing, but in fragrance it massively is from what we've seen in the data. It's crazy when you look, I get so excited, but when you look at things like 353 days to 377 days of this journey funnel, you then see actually it's starting to go darker blue and seeing where the users are coming in for the anniversary of the purchase. So it's really understanding these kind of key moments. And one of the key things like around insights for certain brands is that we found the difference between a 50 ml purchase, 100 ml purchase was only 20 days. So where you're getting double the amount of perfume, actually the repeat average purchase was only 20 days. So actually one of the key insights you can take from today is if you buy a more larger perfume bottle, if you buy more, you actually spray more. So you actually use it at pretty much the same rate as a person who buys a half-size bottle, give or take 20 days. So it's crazy, but that's what the insights show. So understanding that knowledge, path to purchase, time to purchase, and then the core stats being basket values, return rates, stats, users, frequencies, cadence, but again, dashboard form, exportable, automatic to your boardroom for Monday morning. Yeah, these are the type of things we can do, but obviously happy to showcase that on one-to-one as well.
Great, thanks, Josh. I remember many years ago, it feels like 10, so it's probably 20, having a demo of a platform. It wasn't yours, but it was along the same lines, and they described it as train of thought analysis. And they said, so here's 1 million customers. Let's just look at the ones that live within 15 minutes drive time of one of our stores, and that sort of narrows it down. Let's look at the ones that have shopped with us in the last 3 months. Let's look at the ones that have spent more than £200 in that period. Let's look at the ones, and from that, you get from 1 million to 20,000. There's your campaign, because they're the people that you want to target.
Sorry, I was just going to say, to add to that as well, Andrea as well. I'm really not impressed, but I'm really happy that you're asking that question, because that's exactly the right type of questions to be asking off that. I'd also say as well, it's definitely worth building on what Josh was saying, to say that with customer obsession, it's not just about the dashboards. Obviously, that is a very important thing, but a really cool part of customer obsession is being able to then activate that. So the cycle of customer obsession that Forrest had talked about, and being able to learn and build off of that. Obviously, the core thing is being able to take those learnings, but then really easily and natively, one-click activate them, which is what Josh and I would normally be saying that we do within our platform, as we have that activation. So the dashboards aren't just dashboards for dashboard's sake. They're all just clickable and can be pumped across over to an actual activation. So just something to really bear in mind with this customer obsession concept there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed for that, Aria, and thanks, Josh, and thanks for the questions. Kate shared a hashtag customer obsession, then activate on it. Thanks for that, Kate. We are just coming up to 11 o'clock, so let's try and do what we usually do and let you get away on time. Just a couple of quick thank yous and a mention of the feedback form. If one of the team could stick that back in the chat, if you could click on that just before you leave, that would be great. Also, been talking a lot about identifiers. If the person on the call who is listed as iPhone could reach out to Georgia, the logistics manager for this event, we'd love to know who you are, so we can follow up with you with the materials after the event. Other than that, all that remains to say is big thanks to Josh, to Aria, to Hayley, and to all the rest of the people at Mapp who've worked so hard to put today together. And last but by no means least, of course, to all of you for giving us your time. Hope you find it useful. Whatever you're doing for the rest of the day, have a good one. And I'm sure Debbie from Arsenal, who's just said great presentation, will join me in hoping that England can bring the football home tonight. So have a good one. Thanks, everyone.